Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, July 14th, 2023. I'm going to go ahead and review what happened yesterday and jump into our pre-market for this morning. So let's scroll back here and take a look at what happened yesterday. So we came in yesterday and it was a pretty clear picture. Despite seeing some potential bearish counter signals off the highs, we were bulls. Everything looked strong. And the idea was we were expecting the market to attempt to continue to push higher. Again, yesterday, Thursday the 13th. And so let's look. This really was probably the best trade you could have taken all day. And that was the pullback right to the scaffolding level and the 200 moving average. And I guess arguably the VWAP here right out of the open. So we did our pre-market and warned everybody that we were expecting the market to continue to push. Now, just because we expect something doesn't mean we're guaranteed anything. But that was the idea. That was the plan for the morning, unless the market started to show some things that would negate that argument. So we expected the market to continue to push. You had your first opportunity about 1 minute into the open. In fact, in the first few seconds of the open, you could have bought the pullback right to the scaffolding, the 200 moving average, and like I said, arguably VWAP here. Maybe even putting your entry right between the 200 and VWAP there to try. And that would have been the only trade you needed to take for the day. It never came back to test it in any way, and then just went ahead and ripped higher all the way up to the high of the day. Okay, so there were some other opportunities that presented themselves. We had now the first pullback to the 200, the second pullback to the 200. Let's zoom back in here. As the market started ripping out of the open, this first pullback unfortunately didn't lead to much. It didn't break by a significant amount that you should have gotten stopped out, but it also did not quite push much more than about 2 to 3 points. And then it just kind of petered out. And at that point, it should have been pretty clear that as it had trouble trying to hold the 200, you probably didn't want to stay in that trade. But then just a few moments later, we get the pullback right to VWAP here for a double bottom, and then it continues to rally higher. In fact, there's one final test to the tick here. So there's two beautiful opportunities right off the 200 out of the open to get long that never came back to. And then this second opportunity as the market pulled back right to VWAP. Now, if you were trying to get long here, it missed you by 1 or 2 ticks. Same thing here, by 1 tick, it missed the test of the VWAP. But then finally, it actually gave everybody an opportunity there to get in with 1 tick of freaking risk. And then the market pushed, let's see here. It pushed from, if you took the VWAP, 45.26, pushed about 25 points higher for the day. And then from there, as it held VWAP and continued to push, actually, I'm just kind of curious to see here. Yeah, no, never mind. So it continued to push. There was one other pullback right to the 200 as it held VWAP again. Didn't really go anywhere here. So if you were trying to pull that pullback there, it got rejected right off the fast moving average. We talk about this in our weekly webinars and in our strategy, that holding off that and then pulling right back down, not a great sign. And then we got the deeper pullback from 32 to 28.75 for basically a 3-point push right through the 200 there. And then after that, the next test worked to the tick, right? So that's why I say, just because we have levels that work really nicely and hold within a point or two or a few ticks or whatever, sometimes they don't work, right? So you would have been stopped out or right there. And then the second opportunity presented itself right here to the tick. Again, that was a to the tick hold. And then you could have rode the whole market higher there to the end of the day. So there were beautiful opportunities to get long. We were bulls, especially because the market held the 200. It held VWAP, and our bias was for the bulls to push higher, right? So applying these pullbacks to these two critical moving averages would have been the plays yesterday. And the fact that the market never pushed down below the 200 or the VWAP here to push lower was our clue that we wanted to continue to stay bulls, right? So we were bulls coming out of the open. However, if we would have come out of the open yesterday and the market came down below the 200 and below VWAP and started to sell off from there, well, maybe we would have to reconsider our bullish bias. But instead, the market opened, we had our bullish bias, and the bulls held above the two critical moving averages, the 200, the VWAP, and rode the whole thing all the way up. So you had plenty of opportunities to get into the market with literally about 1 or 2 ticks of heat on these beautiful tests, and you could have rode the whole market up the whole day. At the end of the day, what ended up happening? We got our pullback, and then here's our textbook hold off the back end of the FMA as it sold off into the close. Literally to the tick off the FMA the whole way down. So couldn't have worked out any better for the bulls yesterday. And that kind of wraps up our review from yesterday, and that's going to bring us into this morning here. Again, in the overnight session, if you were looking to find a trade in Globex, right to the 200 there, to the tick, and a nice, healthy, almost 10-point pullback, or just about an 7-8 point pullback. Could have got a nice trade there, and then even held the 200 for these second 2 tests, third test, and then you can see we got above it and then pulled back and held it to the tick there for that bounce up. So overnight had some decent action going on from the 200. We did duck below it there to come down, and then only to rally right back up above it and hold. And this is what I'm talking about. We keep holding up above the 200 and the VWAP here, and the bulls are continuing to push, right? So that's where we are right now at current market price, is right around 45.49 here. Let's go ahead and jump up to our higher time frames and see what the charts have to say for this morning.